This time, I'm gonna show you how to assembling the computer. First, the power supply installation. Insert the power supply into the case. Align the holes in the power supply with the holes in the case. Secure the power supply to the case using the proper screws. Next is the RAM. Align the notches on the RAM module to the keys in the slot and press down until the side tabs click into place. Make sure that the side tabs have locked the RAM module and visually check exposed contacts. Next is the CPU. Align the CPU so that the connection 1 indicator is lined up with pin 1 on the CPU socket. Place the CPU gently into the socket. Close the CPU load plate and secure it by closing the load lever and moving it under the load lever retention tab. Next is the thermal compound. Then the heatsink. The heatsink fan assembly usually has a 3-power connector. After installing the previous components to the motherboard, is now ready to install the computer case. Click Install Motherboard. Install stands up in the computer case. Align the input-output connectors on the back of the motherboard with the openings in the back case. Align the screw holes of the motherboard with the stand-ups. Insert all the motherboard screws. Tighten all the motherboard screws. Next is the NIC installation. Align the NIC to appropriate slot on the motherboard. Press down gently on the NIC until the card is filled. Secure the NIC PC mounting bracket to the case with the appropriate screw. Next is the wireless. Align the wireless NIC to appropriate expansion slot on the motherboard. Secure the wireless NIC PC mounting bracket to the case with the appropriate screw. Then, the video adapter. Align the video adapter card to the appropriate expansion slot on the motherboard. Secure the video adapter card mounting bracket to the case with the appropriate screw. Next is the hard disk drive. Position the HDD so that it aligns with the 3.5-inch drive base. Insert the HDD in the drive base so that the screw holes in the drive line up with the screw holes in the case. Secure the hard disk drive to the case using the proper screws. Next is the optical drive. Position the optical drive so that it aligns with the 5.25-inch drive base. Insert the optical drive into the drive base so that the optical drive screw holes align with the screw holes in the case. Secure the optical drive to the case using the proper screws. Next is the floppy drive. Insert the floppy drive in the drive bay so that the floppy drive bay screw holes align with the screw holes in the case. Secure the floppy drive to the case using the proper screws. Next is the connect all the internet cables. Align the 20-pin ATX power connector to the socket on the motherboard. Align the 4-pin AUX power connector to the socket on the motherboard. Next, plug the SATA power connector into the hard disk drive. Plug the Molex power connector in the optical drive. Plug the 4-pin power connector in the floppy drive. Connect the 3-pin fan connector into the appropriate fan header on the motherboard according to the motherboard manual. Plug the motherboard end of the PATA cable in the motherboard socket. This is the data cable installation steps. Plug the connector at the far end of the PATA cable in the optical drive. Plug one end of the SATA cable in the motherboard socket. Plug the other end of the SATA cable into the HDD. Plug the motherboard end of the FDD cable into the motherboard socket. Plug the connector at the far end of the FDD cable into the floppy drive. Now that all internal components have been installed and connected to the motherboard and the power supply, the side panels are attached to the computer case. Once the cover is in place, make sure that it is secured at all screw locations. The last step is to connect the cable for all the computer peripherals and the power cable. When attaching cables, ensure that they are connected to the correct location on the computer. For example, some mouse and cables use the same type PS2 connector. Plug the monitor power connector. Plug the keyboard. Plug the mouse. Then, plug the USB. Next is the Ethernet. Then, the wireless antenna. The last is the power cord. And now you have a assembling computer.